In a Japanese high school classroom, a student named Pago is streaming on his YouTube channel of over 700,000 subscribers. He is collaborating with Rumi, a rising beauty tip sensation. For the viewers, a makeup model has been prepared, which happens to be our timid protagonist, Hobin Yu. The makeup gives off the impression of a clown, and the comments find it hilarious. Hobin just sits there in humiliation as the cameraman named Snapper keeps filming him. Pago orders Hobin to smile for the viewers. He even entices them into liking and subscribing to his channel with a PC as a gift for a random subscriber. Hobin already knows it's a scam, but nevertheless proceeds to smile with a weird laugh. After the humiliating session is over, he washes the makeup off. While looking in the mirror, he summarizes Pago's profile. The high schooler is a bully with more than 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. Although his grades are falling, he knows how to make money. Then there is Rumi. She has a new beauty channel with about 5,000 subscribers and could live off her looks. And then there's Hobin, who laments his existence. As he returns to the class, he gets smothered in kicks from Snapper, his excuse being that Hobin didn't properly smile while they were live streaming. Snapper is part of the delinquents' clique and keeps kicking until Hobin gives him a look. He quickly tells Pago to check it out and they proceed to laugh about it. Hobin knows that he volunteered to be Pago's cameraman only because he's a strategist and wants to take advantage of the guy's authority, because this is how the school hierarchy works. They hear Rumi gleefully announce that she has made 30,000 yen from just that short video collab. This gets Snapper and Hobin wanting to open channels as well. Snapper asks Pago about it. The bully informs him that since he is a minor, he needs his parents' account and bank book. However, Snapper's parents won't allow him, so the easy target happens to be Hobin. He unsympathetically asks the latter if his mother is still alive because he wants to use her account. Hobin wants to react in some sort of violent way, but he doesn't even move an inch. At the hospital, his mother Ji-hyun Park assures him that she could leave the hospital any time, though he knows she'll get worse. Ji-hyun notices the bruises on his face, but he insists that he isn't the sort of kid to end up in a fight. The hospital bill comes down to 30,000 yen, which unlike the new tubers is a week's worth of part-time labor for him. As he is preparing burgers and lamenting over the society's injustice with the pay scale, he is brought back to reality when he hears his co-worker Bomi Choi asking about where the beef patties are stored. He shyly directs her. Apparently, she is the star of the restaurant. His admiration is short-lived when he hears a familiar voice. Pago and Snapper enter WP Donald's live streaming. Hobin quickly ducks down behind a counter. Pago is here for Bomi and has a challenge for her. She has to present him with a burger like the one in the poster in the span of 30 seconds. But if she fails, then Bomi has to give him her number. Hobin starts freaking out because there is no way she could actually achieve that. Before things take a turn for the worse, Hobin whips out an identical burger, leaving everyone speechless and saving Bomi from Pago. The guys at the back celebrate while Hobin dreads his encounter with the bully later at school. At night, Snapper has invited himself over to Hobin's place. He uses the latter's PC and his mum's card details to earn himself some money as he streams a game, while Hobin slaves away in the kitchen. Snapper has already made 3,000 yen and is challenged for 30,000 yen if he is able to achieve a 30-killing spree. As Hobin mulls over the decision of letting the kid use his things, he accidentally trips on the PC's cord, disconnecting it. At the same time, the pot of boiling hot noodles ends up falling from his hands and lands on Snapper. The latter immediately gets up and starts kicking Hobin because he just lost the chance of getting 30,000 yen. Hobin lies there helplessly apologizing. But then something snaps in him the moment Snapper comments on Hobin being the reason for Ji-hyun's cancer. He gets up, giving Snapper a hard punch. Snapper punches him back. They go at each other, pulling hair, smacking faces with kimchi and the noodle pot. Later, when Snapper leaves, Hobin and the apartment are a mess. Curled up, he laments not being born into a rich family because fixing the place will unfortunately require money. He falls asleep, but not before turning off the switchboard. The next morning, he wakes up to Snapper screaming at him through the phone to delete the video uploaded the previous night. Hobin is confused until he realizes that the cord he unplugged was from the monitor and not the main switch. Their whole fight was streamed live. Snapper adds that the video gets uploaded automatically once the monitor turns off. Hobin looks it up himself, still in shock. But the video has really been uploaded and has 10,000 comments. Hobin doesn't want to be humiliated globally and almost deletes the video, but then his eyes land on a comment that states his monetized video gets 0.1 yen per view. He quickly calculates the amount, which adds up to 1 million yen. The kids at school are watching it too. As soon as Snapper enters the class, he gets jumped by a kid and tries to get Paco to help him, but the bully only wickedly smiles. Snapper understands right away that he has become a target. On the bright side, Hobin is able to pay the 120,000 yen hospital bill. While outside, he gets punched in the face by Snapper, who starts demanding him for his share, claiming that the channel is his. However, Hobin refuses. They keep bickering, which turns into fighting. Afterwards, Snapper shows him their fight. He had sneakily placed a camera to record. He then proceeds to boast about his camera skills. Hobin grabs him by the collar and worriedly asks if he's going to upload this too. Snapper doesn't intend on it because then their first video will be labeled as staged. He wants Hobin to see that he is an important asset when it comes to making these videos, because the newbie clearly hasn't withdrawn his revenue and doesn't know how to do screening, filming and planning a video on his own. Just when Snapper thinks that Hobin is falling into his trap and would let him get access to the account, Hobin hits him with a splitting money question. Snapper boldly tells him that he'll take 90% for himself and leave 10% to Hobin. They almost shake hands on it. But Hobin pulls out the middle finger, walking away, stating that he should be getting more money since he is going to be on the screen and they aren't even friends. Snapper starts freaking out and desperately tries to reduce his own pay rate, bringing it down to 10%. Hobin stops in his tracks and asks what their content will be about. Snapper, without missing a beat, declares that they'll call out bullies. The first person they target is Paco. He starts live streaming and shows the duo on his channel. Hobin waits for a moment, and as soon as Pago talks about rewarding a random viewer with a PC, Hobin takes the opportunity to expose the guy. He tells the viewers that Pago is straight up lying about it and only makes himself look good in front of the camera when in reality he is a delinquent. Hobin takes off his own shirt, revealing his bruised body, claiming that Paco is responsible for it. He tempts the viewers by saying that he will explain the rest on his channel. A crowd of students begins to gather. A girl named Gayul Lee also seems to find the matter interesting. Snapper is enjoying the show because this only means that they are going to pull Paco's viewers to their channel. Paco looks like he is about to beat the kid to a pulp. He laughs, showing him his phone that has turned off from low battery, and unsurprisingly starts slapping him like a ragdoll, laughing about Hobin's idea of revenge. However, Paco is unaware that Snapper has already started a live stream and is secretly recording everything. Even though Hobin is getting beaten up, Snapper is more concerned about getting caught by Paco. The stream already has 33,000 views, while Paco relentlessly keeps abusing him. Hobin starts to wonder if this humiliation is worth the money, if people actually enjoy others getting bullied. But he knows that he needs the money, and the only way to get the views to really hit is if he stands up for himself. Hobin gets into a fighting stance, though Snapper would like it otherwise. Hobin is still afraid, and none of the bystanders provide any help. Paco looks massive compared to Hobin's frail form. He also apologizes, but when Paco comments that Hobin is responsible for his mother's cancer, the latter is immediately reminded of the brutal comment the guy had previously made. Hobin sees red and runs towards him. However, he forgets one particularly important point. Paco weighs way more than him. Hobin is unable to move him even an inch. Pago picks him up like he weighs nothing and throws him on the floor, threatening Hobin to put him in the hospital bed next to his mother. The students only laugh and gasp. Just when Hobin thinks that the beating is over with, Pago declares otherwise. He almost punches Hobin's face, but stops an inch away when a student tells them to pipe down. Paco immediately shuts up when he realizes that the voice belongs to the rookie MMA fighter Munseong Kim. The bully finally lets go of Hobin and goes out for a smoke. Hobin's bruised form lies on the classroom floor. At night, Pago finally gets to charge his phone. He still thinks that the whole ordeal hasn't been caught. However, when his phone turns on, to his utter shock, he is flooded with messages from the video. Hobin knows that he is still a prey, but he feels pretty cool at the moment because Pago has been exposed and is trending because the video went viral. The bully had started a live stream, apologizing to the viewers who immediately accepted his apology until the guy laughed about making a fool out of them. People started digging up on his past staged giveaways. His subscribers started to drop until none were left. Hobin ends up taking advantage of this. His channel is blooming. Now that he has come this far, he knows there is no return. Snapper proposes the idea of actual fights for the channel. He explains that to actually make good money on YouTube, they need ads in the video. Snapper knowingly states that Hobin won't be able to fight even for a minute, but he needs to make the video last at least 3 minutes for the ads and watch time to work. That night, Hobin surfs the internet on how to become a good fighter. The obvious pops up that he needs to take it slow, however, he's short on time. He searches YouTube on how to fight. A channel comes up with the same phrase name. It has 0 subscribers, but numerous videos have been uploaded by a guy called Samdak on teaching how to fight. The guy begins by saying that they need to keep their emotions at bay when fighting, and once the opponent is all worked up, then they can proceed to fight. Hobin thinks that this Samdak guy is probably some troll. The next day, Hobin resigns from his part-time job at W.C. Danald's. Bomi gives him her number because she thinks he's cool for exposing Pago. At school, Snapper asks Hobin how the latter feels about having 100k subscribers from just 2 videos. He questions if Hobin has figured out how to fight. Hobin doesn't really have a clear answer. Only Samdak comes to his mind. Their frustration is cut short by Rumi wanting to do a live stream with Hobin. Apparently, her subscribers want them to do a collab. The boys are suspicious of her because she has collaborated with Pago in the past, but she dismisses it and claims that she was never friends with him. Just then, the door swings open, revealing a furious Pago. Samdak's words play in Hobin's head. To his utter shock, they match with Pago's current state. Just when the bully's fist is about to collide with Hobin's face, Snapper interjects with a camera. Pago is left with no choice but to retreat. Before leaving, he warns Hobin that he will take his revenge someday soon. Later that day, Hobin is waiting for Snapper when a couple recognizes him from his YouTube videos. However, his happiness is only for a fleeting moment because the man starts mugging him in an alley. To their disappointment, he has nothing of value on him. Snapper comes to his supposed rescue but gets knocked out with a single punch from the guy. The said mugger takes away Hobin's phone. The latter cries to Snapper that they should call the police, but the cameraman is already recording. He'd been streaming the moment Hobin got dragged into the alley. Snapper pumps him up to fight for his phone, for the sake of his viewers who are cheering for him. Hobin knows he's going to get beaten up, but agrees to it with a smile and strikes a pose for them. They find the couple at a karaoke. The guy is being all tough and mean to them, as if he isn't the one who just stole the phone. Snapper is live streaming it. Hobin thinks back to Samdak's words. As directed, he stands on the left side of the man, because it seems like the mugger is right-handed. The guy raises his right hand, ready to punch Hobin. The latter, instead of dodging it, blocks the hit with his head, taking everyone by surprise. According to Samdak, it's called the how to get hit without getting hit move, basically getting hit before the punch becomes powerful. After this, the thug launches another punch, this time Hobin dodges it. He follows the technique called weaving, a boxing technique where the person keeps moving his upper body to evade punches. They keep going back and forth until a punch lands on Hobin, however. It doesn't hurt that much. He demands the guy to give his phone back because he wants to text Bomi. The thug attacks him left and right, and Hobin willingly keeps getting hit. Snapper can't believe he is actually letting the mugger do this. Hobin regrets not watching more of those videos because now he is out of moves. The views are dropping because they are getting bored from watching a match devoid of any retaliation. Just when Snapper is about to lose hope, some supposed old man drops a few comments, stating that Hobin is actually winning even without fighting. This seems to get the viewers interested in the fight again. He points out that the thug hasn't realized it yet, but his fists are in immense pain. As if on cue, the guy starts to feel it and rolls on the floor from the excruciating pain. This ultimately means that Hobin has won the fight. The video gets uploaded to his channel named Viral Hit aka How to Fight. The 4 videos in total have accumulated 25 million views. On top of this, they have received their first pay, which happens to be 2 million yen. For a 0.1 yen rate per view, the amount looks less, but Snapper reminds him that it took them a while to get any ads approved, and this is only their first pay. Hobin excitedly talks about continuing to upload violent content. Snapper shares that they almost dodged the yellow mark of censorship with the violence. That mark is a YouTuber's worst fear, because a video will get demonetized if the mark turns yellow. At that moment, they spot Rumi live streaming. As soon as she catches a sight of them, Snapper drags them away from her. They lose her and end up in front of a shop. Hobin's eyes land on a tracksuit. He hopes to buy it if it's around 30k, but the price tag states 140k, which is way over his budget. As he's about to leave, he spots Snapper already purchasing it in a single payment and calls it a basic item to own. Hobin realizes that stuff like this is nothing to rice people. His phone dings. He starts freaking over a text from someone. The scene cuts to him standing in that expensive 140k tracksuit while he calls himself an idiot for going through with the payment. In his nervousness, he starts a live stream. People start talking rudely about him. His viewers try to sympathize. A girl then runs towards him, wanting a selfie, but turns out she wants one with another YouTuber named Jiwon who is streaming right behind him. The guy is good looking, leaving Hobin feeling even more worse about himself. Jiwon's eyes fall on someone and asks them for their time, but gets rejected. The person happens to be none other than Bomi, who tells him that she is here to hang out with Hobin. To their surprise, they both are wearing matching tracksuit jackets. Hobin thinks back to feeling like a loser at school. He only wanted to be able to stand up to Pago. At least, Moon Song was there to put Pago in his place. However, Hobin doesn't feel like that right now because Bomi is with him. At a cafe, Bomi orders a popular online strawberry parfait and excitedly explains it to Hobin. But the guy hardly gives a reaction. She tries to engage them in a conversation by asking about his hobbies, but he doesn't even properly reply. Bomi gets up to leave, stating that he seems fun to talk to via text, but in person it looks like he isn't interested to talk. She's almost out of the door when Hobin tells her that she's probably too embarrassed to hang out with him. As for himself, this is the first time he has ever spoken to a girl or visited a fancy cafe. His hobby is watching YouTube because he doesn't have any friends, and he is too shy to eat in front of her because of how cute she is. Hobin is sweating profusely by the time he is done confessing. He blames the sun and shyly tells her that he took the spot so she didn't have to. Bomi is definitely charmed by his words. When they leave the cafe, Bomi gets a call from a friend who coincidentally happens to be in the same area. She tells Hobin that his name is Munsong. Upon hearing the name, he starts freaking out a little, but then lies about being good friends with him. Munseong eventually finds them. Bomi tells him what Hobin just mentioned, and the guy looks puzzled, while Hobin stands frozen in fear, mulling over his words in his head, ready to be beaten up. But the worry turns into confusion when Munseong acknowledges his existence by remembering that they are in the same class, even knows the first syllable to his name, and is aware of his YouTube channel. As the three of them start walking, Hobin doubts himself yet again, feeling like a third wheel. He quickly comes up with the excuse of a painful ingrown toenail and starts to head back home. A sad expression crosses Bomi's face. Snapper catches him on the way, giving him a little pep talk on fighting for the girl, reminding him that she was the one who asked him out and treated him to coffee. Once he is all pumped up, he starts marching back towards them to confess his feelings for her. Snapper already has the stream running with the title, "I confessed my love to a friend and got rejected." Someone leaves a comment that they wouldn't want Snapper as their friend. Once Hobin finds them, they ask him about his ingrown toenail. He dismisses it. Munsong gets up to leave. Bomi tells Hobin that Munsong has a fight coming up, so the guy's busy. Hobin realizes that he was putting himself down for nothing because they both were clearly not on a date. Before Munsong leaves, he praises him on his fighting skills, when in reality, Hobin only followed what the chicken head guy said. Later, Bomi asks what Hobin wanted to tell her. After stumbling over his words, he asks her about her ideal type of guy. The girl shyly tells him that she wants someone honest. This encourages Hobin to share his honest feelings for her, but before he does so, he spots Snapper hiding in the bushes, recording them. However, upon a closer look, he notices the bruised face. Hobin's nightmare, aka Pago, emerges from behind, reminding Hobin about the revenge he was going to take. Pago calls her a whore for not giving him her number at W.C. Danald's. Hobin remembers to keep his cool. He asks Pago with a smile if the guy is ready to be called a loser again. The bully launches himself at Hobin. The latter brings his forehead forward like he did with the mugger, but receives an uppercut instead. Pago tells him with a smirk that he has watched that video and was prepared for this move. Hobin's world starts spinning. He once again regrets not watching Samdak's other videos. Rain starts to pour down by the time Pago has beaten him to pulp. He mutters for Pago to let Bomi go home. However, the reply comes in the form of more punches. Bomi helplessly tells Pago to stop. Gayul watches from a distance. Hobin kneels in front of Pago, apologizing to him, but the bully isn't pleased. He wants an apology with his trousers off. To Hobin's horror, the live stream is still running. Snapper has been forced to film. Hobin feels ashamed that Bomi has more courage than him as she slaps Pago across the face. Before Pago can punch her, Hobin takes off his clothes to save her. Pago menacingly tells them to send their subscribers to his channel because they will drop Hobin after this. To make things worse, the guy starts to pull his boxers down as well. No one, not even Pago, wants to watch. Thankfully, Munsong comes to the rescue. He had watched the live stream and came running. The MMA fighter takes down Pago's clique and the bully receives a hard punch to the face. Hobin feels nothing but shame. Munsong takes Bomi away from the scene, telling her that Hobin needs to be left alone. At school, Pago has returned to live streaming. The viewers, as sickening as it sounds, like this abusive version of him. He has set up a model for them. This time, it's Snapper. The guy can finally understand how Hobin had felt. Speaking of the YouTuber, his seat is empty. He hasn't shown up to school in days. Bomi calls him insistently, but he doesn't pick up. Unbeknownst to the rest, he is following Samdak's video on how to fight and beat a regular person and working hard on himself. He wants to change himself for the better. The chickenhead pumps him up, telling him to turn his anger into the driving force needed to achieve his goal. Samdak's training will take a whole month. Meanwhile, Pago is still bullying Snapper. He reads a comment saying that he'll get 50,000 yen if he could get Snapper's pants off. Hobin shows up to his rescue despite Snapper warning him otherwise. Hobin tosses him his phone, which is already live streaming. He tells Snapper to point the camera at him. Hobin announces that the title of their video will be How to Fight and Beat a Regular Person. Before Hobin showed up, Snapper decided to suck up to Rumi. He had told her that he was good with the behind-the-scenes stuff in case she needed a producer. Paco had heard and punched him in the stomach, asking if he didn't feel any shame betraying him and now betraying Hobin as well. As he lies on the cold floor, lamenting being helpless and friendless, Paco takes this opportunity to start a live stream. Snapper doesn't understand how the society had accepted Paco again after finding out about his truth. The bully celebrates gaining 900k subscribers. Paco then orders Snapper to get Hobin to come to school the next day. If he can do that, then he'll welcome Snapper as his producer again. The guy easily agrees after hearing about the opportunity. He goes straight to the hospital where Hobin's mother is admitted and asks her about their home address. Jihyun closely gives it to him. The next day though, Snapper's face is all swollen and red. He timidly informs Paco that Hobin wouldn't come out no matter what. Paco takes this as an excuse to beat him up even more. He tells Snapper to drop the guy a message via the live stream. Snapper, despite his reputation, warns Hobin not to return to school because Paco wants to beat him up for 50,000 yen. After finishing the sentence, Paco gives him another punch to the face. What actually changed Snapper's mind was that Hobin's mother had informed him how Hobin had told her about finally gaining a friend and not feeling lonely anymore. Snapper just couldn't bring himself to betray the guy after that. This is how Hobin finds Snapper, lying on the class's floor, begging him once more not to come. Snapper starts filming. Hobin blocks Pago's slap with his forehead, using that move from earlier fights. The bully finds it amusing. A flashback to Hobin's practice begins. He sits down to watch Samdak's second video on how to fight and beat a regular person. The guy gives 3 important tips to be a good fighter. 1. Build. His body weight needs to be increased in order to resist attacks. This requires consuming loads of protein. Hobin goes straight to his blender, making a disgusting protein shake and inevitably throwing it up. Next tips is 2. Willpower. He needs to be determined to build that body. However, he shouldn't overeat in case it turns into fat. Lastly, 3. Stamina. He needs it to last longer in a fight. The best way to gain stamina is to practice in water, and he should make fists in order to push his metabolism more efficiently. Hobin is already exhausted from all of this, and the cherry on top is when Samdak states that even after all of this effort, there won't be any drastic physical changes. The chicken head finally decides to introduce him to a technique called the MMA-style low kick. Currently, Hobin uses it on Pago. He had practiced this kick for the whole month. Pago finds it hilarious, cleverly stating that a low kick lands on the thigh. Munseong interjects that the low kick was purposely made low for the impact to be max, it's more of a calf kick. Once that is done, the next best thing Samdak taught him was to run if the opponent is a lot bigger, which is exactly what Hobin does. Hobin then suddenly turns around, sending another calf kick his way. Pago figures out that this is the only move Hobin has mastered in the whole month. The bully starts punching him. He goes back to kicking. Pago's smug tone returns. Hobin goes with what he had practiced in water. He goes for the overhand hook, punching the guy square on the nose. Everyone is left in utter shock. Pago falls back from the impact. Ever since that day, Pago has been skipping school, most likely because of his reputation being tarnished by Hobin. Pago's viewers subscribe to Hobin's channel. He gains over 250k subs, which leads to receiving a silver plaque from YouTube. Later, when Hobin pays a visit to his mum, surprising her with a new outfit, she tells him that his friend has been visiting her. Hobin thinks that she is talking about Munseong. Snapper overhears them from outside while holding a fruit basket. He punches Hobin for getting his name wrong. At the end of the day, Hobin knows he has gained a sincere friend. Afterwards, Snapper informs Hobin that they need to hire an editor for their channel. Hobin is confused because Snapper has done it all till now. The latter states that he has learned to do this stuff from others. They need an actual pro who could make their channel more exciting. For this reason, he has already started filming. Hobin politely asks their viewers to share their backgrounds. Some weird men flood the comments section, which obviously doesn't help. However, after a few minutes, a comment pops up from that supposed old man about knowing editing. Hobin doubts this one too. However, they eventually decide on giving the man a chance and lets him contact Hobin for a face-to-face interview. It's the next day. The editor is supposed to meet them at school. Their worry turns into confusion when Gyul Lee from first year shows up at their classroom door, talking like some middle-aged man, telling them to get on with the interview. The students gossip that she's lived abroad and learned the language online, which is why she talks like that. They watch a play-by-play video of theirs, which she has already edited with a proper intro since they don't have that, and added a few of the comments from their stream, claiming that the comments are an important part of their video. While Snapper is already sold on her little fingers and wants to hire her right away, Hobin states otherwise and analyzes the video, thinking that some sort of a kick to it is still missing and contemplates on hiring her. He asks if she had trouble with editing any particular part. Gil goes straight to pointing out his underwear scene. Hobin is still traumatized from that incident and hires her immediately. However, he does ask why she wants to work for them with skills like hers. She thinks back to Hobin's determined stance while squaring up to Pago, which she found impressive, but only states that she looks forward to working with them. Meanwhile, Bomi wonders why Hukboin won't contact her when he clearly has the time for filming for his YouTube channel. As she walks down the street, her eyes fall on a few men who have been beaten, passed out in front of and inside a gaming cafe, while some high schooler sits in a chair and plays a video game. An older man angrily asks if he is responsible for the mess. The guy just looks up and cockily demands him for a 100 yen. According to Snapper, the boy happens to be an ex-MMA fighter named Tae-Hun Seong, belonging to Gangbuk High School. He got kicked out of MMA for causing too much trouble. Hobin is definitely impressed. Snapper informs him that Tae-Hun knows Taekwondo. Hobin is confused as to what this has to do with him. Gaeul chimes in with a lesson on Taekwondo. She enlightens them on the fact that sports-style Taekwondo doesn't work in the streets because it is only aimed at scoring points against the opponent, while combat Taekwondo is used in an actual fight aimed at knocking out the opponent. Gaeul then gives them a detailed account on different martial art techniques surveyed on their power and speed of kicks. Muay Thai. Maximum speed 209 km per h. Capoeira, maximum speed 160 km per h. Taekwondo, maximum speed 219 km per h. Hobin asks again what this has to do with him. Snapper nonchalantly tells him that this Tae-Hun guy is going to be his next opponent because their channel is all about dealing with bullies. Hobin, without processing the words, readily agrees, but once it sinks in, he refuses to fight an actual fighter. He'd rather do something normal like run a food channel. A little extra info on Tae-Hun Seong. The guy is the school's psychopath. He quit Taekwondo for an unknown reason, but wants to be rich. He takes things from kids, for instance, wanting to swap shoes, but when one friend denies and the other has no choice but to agree, his real goal isn't the shoes, but to make one friend watch the other get beaten by him. Hobin reads all of this while filming for the channel. He really doesn't know how to fight a sadist like him, which is obviously scary, but Snapper asks if Hobin is going to break a promise to their viewers. The comments cheer him on, saying that he was able to beat Paco. However, Hobin finds it quite absurd that he has to fight a total stranger for no reason. Later that evening, Tae-Hun encounters some men who want to fight him for beating up their friend. But Tae-Hun doesn't even break a sweat and almost kicks the living daylight out of them. The kicks come in such quick successions that it's hard to even see them. The guy ends up apologizing, but Tae-Hun says that he wants the previously beaten friend to give him 100 yen. When the said man takes out the money, Tae-Hun kicks the third friend and demands an even higher amount, beating him again and again until the demand reaches 1 million yen. The friend cries, begging and apologizing in fear. Snapper subtly records the whole thing, witnessing how much of a psychopath Tae-Hun truly is. The moment their eyes meet, he ducks away, thinking that he is safe, and tells Hobin about his narrow escape. But then Tae-Hun pops up right in front of them, questioning why he was being recorded. They feel their lives flash in front of them. Snapper awkwardly tells him that his Taekwondo moves were quite impressive. Hobin hopes the smooth talk can help them escape from the monster. They get interrupted by Gaeul running towards them, yelling to protect them, but then she stops to kick a rock instead, obviously scared of Tae-Hun. He tells them that he has heard they wanted him to show up on their channel. They agree and try to leave, assuring him that the video in which he was mentioned will be deleted. However, he wants them to give him the channel and proceeds to kick Snapper in the stomach, sending him to the ground. Hobin stands frozen, but he knows by now that Tae-Hun doesn't really want the things he asks for. His real goal is to beat your friend right in front of you to make you feel powerless and ashamed. Tae-Hun gives Snapper another kick and pulls his hair, still demanding them to give up their YouTube channel. But the cameraman refuses, saying that they have put too much work into it. Hobin tries to weigh his options to fight against the guy, but then he comes to the conclusion that his calf kick and overhand hook will be nothing in front of Tae-Hun's Taekwondo kicks. The only choice he is left with is to give up his account, and that's what he tells Tae-Hun. All three of them can't believe their ears. Tae-Hun slaps him across the face for giving up so easily. Hobin clarifies that he is going to give up their account because this means that they won't be beaten up by him. This decision lets them take Snapper to the hospital. The guy has suffered a few cracked ribs from a single kick. Hobin shares that it feels like Snapper is angry at him for this decision, but they should really stay away from that crazy guy and leave the rest to the police. However, Snapper is still in disbelief. He recalls the time when Hobin fought Pago. It really inspired him that even someone as weak as himself could be courageous. He questions if Hobin doesn't have any pride, to which the latter answers no right away. He clarifies that pride doesn't enable him to earn money. On top of this, Pago was just a bully while Tae-hun is a literal pro, which scares him. He just doesn't want to get beaten up and walks out with an apology. Gaeul enters at the same time. Snapper assures her that he is doing fine, but just as she is about to sit down, he informs her that he is tired and would like to rest for a bit. She understands and leaves immediately. As soon as the door closes behind her, Snapper lets his tears fall. He feels so ashamed that Gaeul had to see him get beaten up like that. Afterwards, Hobin goes to the gaming cafe where Tae-hun is busy beating people up with Taekwondo even in a game. Hobin effortlessly wins a round as soon as he sits down, which obviously irritates Tae-hun. The YouTuber puts the first lesson of how to fight to the test, which is to get the opponent worked up. He calmly tells Tae-hun that he came to hand over the YouTube account. Tae-hun tells him to get to the fighting part already. However, Hobin challenges him to a brawl within a month. The fighter opposes, but Hobin boldly asks if Tae-hun is worried that he'll get beaten up, to which he responds with a kick. But Hobin somehow manages to swiftly dodge it, and it lands on a screen, shattering it. Tae-hun ultimately agrees. Back at the hospital, Hobin explains it all to Snapper and Gaeul. The cameraman asks what made him change his mind. Hobin replies that he knows the feeling. Before Snapper can even process the words, he is walking out the door, saying that he is going to be busy for the whole month practicing. At night, he practices through Samdak's videos. The chicken head mentions that it's impossible to even think a regular person can beat a pro Taekwondo fighter. The outcome is death. However, he is here to show them how to fight outside of the ring, which is possible with a simple trick. They have to make sure to not let the fighter use their feet and control the environment. This means that they select such a place to fight where the fighter won't be able to freely apply his kicks in a slippery and dangerous area. Hobin decides that he will choose a rainy day to fight Tae-hun. Samdak tells them to refresh their calf kicks and overhand hook. Moreover, the three important concepts of fighting, aka build, stamina, and willpower, should not be left behind. Samdak comes through with another shocker, that even with all of this practice, their winning percentage is only 5% unless they follow a move, which will increase the chance to 40%. The move is tackle. Samdak claims that martial artists who prefer kicks dislike tackle the most. A brilliant way to do it is in cold water. Hobin gets on with using the water resistance to train his muscles, heart, lungs, and stamina in general. Snapper and Gaeul visit him with a live stream. They find him hanging from the bar inside his closet, followed by working on his abs, which involves picking up a heavy trash bag. Gaeul starts kicking his abdomen out of nowhere. Apparently, she is helping with making the workout more effective. The day finally arrives quicker than Hobin anticipated. He has chosen an alley, and according to the forecast, it'll rain today. But then Snapper interjects with the news that the weather is said to be clear for 2 whole weeks. He's glad his footage won't get messed up in the rain. Meanwhile, Hobin goes pale because his plan is going to be ruined now. The guy will be able to easily use his kicks. Out of fear, he starts running in the opposite direction. Tae-hun watches the whole thing live from the school bathroom. Water gets thrown at him. When he looks up, Hobin is standing with a water hose in his hand, stating that if it's not going to rain, then he'll make it rain, and proceeds to wet the floor. He then jumps at the guy, but gets punched. A crucial point, he forgot that the opponent can still throw a punch. He almost sees white and processes the punch a few seconds after. Snapper is praying that this isn't Hobin's whole plan and that there's more to anticipate. Tae-hun then grabs him by the shirt and starts slapping him across the face. The comments find it amusing because what was Hobin really thinking? Hobby sends a calf kick at him. He doesn't slip thanks to the quite expensive water shoes he has bought online. He just needs to hang in there for 3 minutes to get the space for ads insertion. Hobie gets distracted when cleaning the blood from his nose, which is obviously a mistake because he barely dodges Tae-hun's kick and escapes from the punch. The fighter, as opposed to Hobin's prediction, is quite stable with his footwork on a wet surface, even though he is wearing his regular school shoes. Hobin isn't able to dodge the next punch, which is when he realizes how different Tae-hun is from Pago. The YouTuber can only land a calf kick, which only makes Tae-hun wince. He keeps hitting the guy with his calf kicks and receives punches in response. Snapper fears that Hobin will get knocked out anytime soon, but then maybe, just maybe, he has another move up his sleeves and is trying to distract Tae-hun by shouting about his calf kick. Right on cue, Hobin tackles the fighter. He follows Samdak's step-by-step tutorial by grabbing Tae-hun by his knees and pulling up. Hobin pushes him down to the floor with a double-leg tackle. Everyone is just as shocked as the YouTuber. Snapper has a feeling that something isn't right. Why would Tae-hun get tackled so easily? Hobin goes for what seems to be a punch, but instead he grabs Tae-hun's collar from the back, pulling up, and the other hand is on the other side, creating a cross with his arms. This move is called a cross choke. He has to clench his fists as hard as he can and impatiently starts counting 10 seconds in his head. It takes a person about that much time to pass out from this move. However, Tae-hun cunningly reminds him that Ho-bin isn't even strangling him. Well, the cross choke clearly didn't work on him. The fighter points out that it went wrong the moment Ho-bin grew a little impatient, which clearly indicates that this is his first actual fight. When they do get up from the floor, Tae-hun acknowledges his efforts and holds up one of Ho-bin's water shoes. He then adds that this is the reason he let Ho-bin tackle him to the floor. Now he can comfortably use his kicks. The new tuber is reminded of Samdak's words, that if in case the efforts of stopping the Taekwondo kicks fails, then they have to run away from the pro fighter as fast as they can, because those kicks are packed with the weight of a one-ton truck. Ho-bin sits in a corner, lamenting his time training. Both his moves that he had worked so hard on for the past month were of no use. However, the comment section is still cheering him on. Snapper tries to get him out of his depressed state by reminding him about the money he needs to make. This seems to get him back on track. Ho-bin gets up and starts analyzing. He remembers that Samdak had stated that a true Taekwondo fighter's power truly unleashes when they use both their feet, and Snapper had mentioned that Tae-hun's dominant foot is the right one, in which he is currently wearing the water shoe, which means the kick will come from the left. Ho-bin plans to tackle him and then put him in cross choke, but his thoughts dissipate as soon as Tae-hun lifts his left foot towards Ho-bin. The kick sends him flying back, and he sees white. Snapper's frantic form becomes a blur, and the kicks come through in successions from every direction. Tae-hun knows that Ho-bin's dominant foot is the right one and brings his own foot down hard on his toes. Ho-bin grits his teeth from the pain. Tae-hun finishes off with the fancy back kick, and Ho-bin completely passes out, drool dripping from his mouth. Snapper falls to his knees in fear. Tae-hun reminds Snapper about taking over the YouTube channel as promised. Before Tae-hun can do any more damage, Ho-bin gets up, still not in his senses. Someone comments that if he doesn't stop, he'll actually die. Nevertheless, Ho-bin keeps standing as he reiterates Samdak's third lesson, which teaches how to fight a Taekwondo fighter as a regular person, to control the environment, to refrain them from kicking. The viewers are definitely glad to see him standing. Snapper is yelling his lungs out for him to just stop because money isn't more important than his life. Ho-bin doesn't listen and shouts for the viewers to subscribe to the channel. Tae-hun finds the whole thing amusing as he starts walking towards him, stating that standing between the walls of a toilet stool isn't going to give him any protection from his kicks. Ho-bin believes otherwise. Just as Tae-hun is about to hit him with a back kick, Ho-bin lifts himself up with the help of the door frame, tackling the guy to the floor and holding him in a cross choke. Ho-bin, with all his strength, lifts Tae-hun. Mun-song is watching as well, and he notices that the move has turned into a baseball choke. To Tae-hun, Ho-bin was just his scrawny plaything, but now that same toy is making him feel powerless, just like the time he had lost a match in the ring, which led him to have problems as a fighter. Then, exactly like that match, Tae-hun starts slapping his shoulder for a tap-out, which is considered quite an embarrassing moment for a fighter. This automatically means that the opponent has won, but Ho-bin is so engrossed in perfectly executing his move, so pumped up with adrenaline that he can't hear anyone. Snapper keeps yelling to let go, but all Ho-bin can hear is Samdak's voice telling him to not let go until he finishes the countdown for the baseball choke in his head, or else Tae-hun will surely wake up. So he does exactly that. But when Ho-bin comes to his senses, he bends the guy's legs to bring the blood circulation back and get him out of his unconscious state. Tae-hun does get up, but goes straight to choking him. Anger vibrates through his whole body, demanding what Ho-bin is up to. The new tuber timidly informs him that he was worried and returns him his World Taekwondo Foundation watch, which seems important to Tae-hun. He snatches it and walks away embarrassed, but not before telling him to stay out of his sight. The scene quickly changes to Ho-bin doing a commercial for some medicated body spray. They seem to have received a sponsorship. Once the ad part is over with, the guys leave the editing to Gayul. The channel reaches 190,000 subscribers. At school, they discuss how getting her on the team was definitely a good decision because the editing makes a lot of difference. Bomi hides behind the counter, watching Ho-bin's ad when a male customer comes in, calling her cute. He asks for her number, but she politely refuses and gives him his order of 30 big whack meals. She wistfully thinks back to the time Ho-bin had helped her with Pargo. The customer's name is Mangi Huang. During his shift at the local market, he lifts 200 kilograms meat, like it weighs nothing. The guy is a well-known Sureum wrestler, which is Korean-style wrestling. He watches the video of Ho-bin and Tae-hyun's fight with a phone in one hand, while the other carries the heavy weight. Mangi comes up with the brilliant idea of fighting Ho-bin to get his channel some views, which has only 7 subscribers so far. At school, Ho-bin mentions that Tae-hun seemed unlike other bullies. Snapper asks how, and Hobin assumes that he might be a good guy because he remembers the look he gave Hobin when he returned the watch to the fighter. Apparently he's already missing the guy. Hobin asks if Snapper knows how the fighter's doing. The cameraman tells him that the viewers were fawning over how handsome he looked, but Taehun is unaware of any of that. Hobin suddenly doesn't like the guy anymore and finds the whole lookism thing ridiculous. Meanwhile, Gail is getting bullied by a bunch of kids from her grade for not being able to speak Japanese like a normal teen and for acting cute. To make things worse, they decide to record her. One of the guys pushes her to the floor while the rest of them make fun of Hobin for popping up any minute with his how to get hit without getting hurt move. Gail can't stand the insults and throws a punch, but gets a sore fist as a result of it. Snapper shows up, all cool and macho, but gets beaten up right away. One of the kids named Hyun-sak is about to slap Gail, however, Hobin stops him. They immediately start making fun of how tiny he is. As the bullies are YouTubers, they think that Hobin had staged winning the fight from Taehun, and cockily challenges him to a fight with their YouTube channels on the line. Hobin decides to sound threatening and tries to put on an intimidating voice, demanding them to lend him 100 yen the way Taehun did. However, they give him the coin right away while cackling. In the end, Mun-seong comes to their rescue, and one look from him is more than enough for the kids to leave the trio alone. As they sit outside, Snapper decides to act cool once again in front of Gail. He gets up, shouting at Hobin for spacing out, when Gail had almost gotten beaten up. Snapper then proceeds to hold him accountable for just standing there and not doing anything. Hobin stands up, stating that he found them pretty annoying, but for an entirely different reason. Hobin then out of the blue gently lifts Gail's hair strand, promising her to teach her the technique properly. Gail blushes. Later, Hobin finally goes to see Bomi during her shift at WC Donald's because Mun-seong tells him to stop ghosting her. He orders a strawberry parfait, but she takes one look at who ordered it and tells him with a hard look on her face that they don't sell it. She still returns with a bowl of what looks like ice and strawberry, slams the tray on the counter and walks off. It's clear as day that she's mad at Hobin. He tries to leave without causing a scene because he understands that her reaction is valid as he hasn't been in touch with her for the past 2 months. Just as he's about to turn around, he notices a small laugh slip from her mouth, though Bomi pretends otherwise. It's all cute until she tells him that she knows they have hired an editor who happens to be a girl. Bomi then asks if he finds her cute. Gail enters the restaurant right then, acting all cool, repeating Bomi's question. Hobin cluelessly affirms. This makes Gail feel all flustered, but she covers it up by holding a box of ginseng drink for Bomi, claiming that Hobin just won't stop talking about her and she thought that maybe gifting her something will help communicate his feelings. Meanwhile, Hobin is freaking out, asking her to stop talking. Bomi quietly asks Hobin to text her. Gail feels like she's intruding, so she decides to use the ingrown toenail excuse and walks away. The next morning, Bomi is walking on the pavement when suddenly a fake snake is thrown at her. She freaks out and falls on the road. Those bullies show up with a camera in her face, introducing themselves as the comedy crew on YouTube. They tell her that they prank people on sidewalks. The prank takes a grave turn when a car speeds towards Bomi, who is still on the road. Meanwhile, the viral hit trio is watching Comedy Crew's channel at school. Hobin states that he doesn't want to admit it, but their content seems funny, and on top of that, they act all polite for the camera. Snapper gives him the shocking news that the channel has 700k subscribers with those pranks. However, he adds that this isn't the only prank they've done. Just when Gail is about to analyze the editing in the videos, the crew finds them and starts ridiculing them for looking all scrawny and punkable, and having a lower subscriber count than theirs. After a while, Hobin gets a text from Bomi, which he excitedly opens only to discover the news of her accident. Mun-seong is already at the hospital. Bomi's leg is bandaged with crutches next to her. He asks her to explain how she was injured. The girl hesitates, but then tells him that she got injured when she got startled and fell from the curb onto the road. The car was thankfully able to stop just in time. However, what made her angry was the fact that the crew kept laughing and recording. Hobin overhears her as he stands in the doorway. He shoots her a few texts, apologizing for being late and hopes for her to recover soon, then exits, leaving her confused. The trio starts a live stream and it's obvious who he is going to fight this time. He tells the viewers that they are going to crush the Comedy Crew. Before the fight, Hobin mentions Samdak's How to Beat Multiple Opponents video. Snapper asks in suspicion if Hobin suddenly wants to fight because now Bomi is involved. Well, in Hobin's defense, he isn't really going to fight them. 3 against 1 is just too much. He thinks back to Samdak's video, but the problem is that he doesn't trust this particular one and decides to deal with the bullies in his own way. Hobin wishes that they had some evidence on the Comedy Crew's videos for being staged. Snapper fills them in with some important details of potential evidence. He tells them that in the elevator gangster prank video, if they look closely, they will notice that the woman doesn't really push any button for her floor. Hobin and Gyul are definitely creeped out. Snapper states that people use actors for such videos. He then talks about a video where the police were called on Hyun-seok for smoking while being a minor. Snapper had later asked the police himself if they actually came to the scene because of that. The officer said that they showed up for a different reason. The girls from the group had made up an excuse that they thought some criminal was there, which is why the officers went to take a look. The conversation gets cut off thanks to Rumi's interruption. She still wants to collaborate with them for a staged video of spilling coffee on a female friend. Hobin refuses to play along and suggests that if that's what she really wants, then she should go shoot the video with comedy crew. She follows his advice because they do film the coffee video, and Hyun-seok praises her for her acting. After that, they talk demeaningly about their naive viewers and the way they can easily get manipulated. Rumi then suggests that they should film a few more videos for later uploads. Hyun-seok has a clever idea for the next one. He wants to expose Viral Hit because how could someone like Hobin win from an MMA fighter? Rumi shares that the video was actually not staged at all. This doesn't seem to break Hyun-seok's spirit because he tells her that they'll just make it look like the video was staged with their editing skills. And besides, the viewers love the drama, they'll believe it instantly. Rumi declines. She doesn't want to go that far with a prank. Hyun-seok pulls up his phone, showing her the video recording of when she was bad-mouthing her viewers. He had secretly recorded it all. Rumi takes out a phone as well. She has done the same to them, but proceeds to deliver an even bigger shock. She had made a bet with Hobin that if she films this video, then she gets to collab with Viral Hit, and everything has been streaming live for their channel this whole time. The phone belongs to Hobin. He thanks her for her part, but unfortunately the bad mouthing on her end has made it in the video. Hobin intimidatingly asks if prank videos are the only way they know how to make cash. He approaches Hyun-seok but is somehow taller than before as he demands for the prank video on Bomi to be handed over. A flashback to Samdak's teaching on beating multiple opponents begins to play. The chicken head straight off the bat tells his viewers that it's totally not possible and they should just run. However, the only way to do it is to bluff and intimidate. In present time, Hobin is scared out of his mind but puts up a strong front as he threateningly takes steady steps towards them. The whole aura thing is working on Hyun-seok because the guy is starting to believe that Hobin has actually beaten Pako and Taehun. It all dissipates when Hobin's foot twists on a drain cover and his shoe along with double insoles fall out. Well, this explains his increased height. He tries to still sound intimidating as he asks for his shoe, but the damage has already been done. The next best thing to do is to run. He runs through alleys, and for the first time in a long time, he doesn't hear Samdak's voice in his head. The bullies run after him while Snapper tries to catch everything live. Hobin hits the two of them with the calf kick move. He realizes that he did it without overthinking. This means he has grown. The bullies don't feel it right away, but the pain sets in after a minute. As predicted by Mun-seong, they can't move their legs from the soreness. What he is confused about is that if Hyun-seok hasn't been kicked yet, then why is he standing frozen? His question gets answered by his MA master Logan Gracie, nicknamed the Smiling King of the Ring. He tells the fighter that the boss of the group has just witnessed an alpha gorilla in front of him. Speaking of Hobin, he feels excitement coursing through his body, even though he's scared. The newbie fighter thinks that maybe this is adrenaline. Hyun-seok remains still. Gyul interjects by putting one of the girls into a headlock, calling her a hostage. Hyun-seok quickly uses this as an excuse to get away from Hobin. While Gyul and Snapper are busy celebrating the victory, Hobin stands with the sound of his heartbeat thumping in his eardrums. The excitement hasn't worn down. He suspects that fighting just might be something he enjoys. Later, the comedy crew apologizes to their viewers after getting exposed, but the backlash is so intense that their channel shuts down. Meanwhile, Viral Hit gains more subscribers, reaching 210,000 subs. Slowly, things seem to have returned to normal, but then one fateful night, Bomi is walking alone. She is near Hobin's house when the Syrian YouTuber Mangi Huang pops up in front of her. He creepily licks his lips like she is some sort of a meal. Mun-seong stops his hand before the worst happens. The wrestler looks at him confused, asking if he is some rip-off version of Viral Hit. Mun-seong states that he is going to show him how to beat a Syrian wrestler as a pro fighter. The MMA fighter's moves seem to have no effect on the wrestler, as he hoists Mun-seong up with one arm. The sheer strength he exhibits is frankly frightening. Mun-seong manages to slip out of his grip before getting slammed. They get interrupted by Hobin running and screaming like a madman towards them. He had freaked out when Bomi didn't reply to him. Still running towards Mangi, he gets picked up in a chokehold and gets slammed on the hard ground. Mangi had excelled in Syrian at the age of 17, but he wanted to have a romantic relationship with women, but he obviously couldn't, because of which he despised men who could and didn't hesitate to beat the heck out of them. The next day, Hobin hides in his class supplies cupboard, too embarrassed about getting beaten up in front of Bomi yet again. Snapper tries to make him feel better by calling the wrestler a monster and asks if he's going to fight the guy like he fought Paco. Hobin had felt utter fear from that single move. He refuses to fight. Snapper reminds him that it's not like one can simply fight a boar. The correct response is to call the police, and it's not like their viewers know about the previous night. Just as the words leave his mouth, Gale shows them that Mangi has already filmed a beaten-up Hobin with the caption, "I beat viral hit." Snapper worriedly hints that the viewers want Hobin to square up to Mangi. But then he determinedly tells Hobin that he won't let him fight that guy, and that he should trust him in getting them out of this sticky situation. Later that day, Snapper turns on a live stream in his own room, explaining to the viewers that the fight was an accident. Hobin has backed down from fighting Mangi mainly because Bomi doesn't want him to get hurt. He tries to watch YouTube and stumbles upon a video of Samdax titled "How to Beat a Syrian Wrestler as a Regular Person." However, it's not really helpful because he tells the viewers that as a beginner they can't beat a grappler. Hobin searches for a video on beating grapplers on Samdax's channel, but he unfortunately doesn't find any. He thinks back to his fights, that even though he was scared, he still felt excited. There's this tight feeling in his chest that he can't get over. He then has an epiphany, finally understanding the reason for the tightness. The next day, Snapper gets a call from Hobin. He starts blabbering to the latter about his persuasive skills, twisting the narrative to their side by making that explanatory video. But he gets cut off by Hobin telling him that he has a change of heart and is going to fight Mangi. Snapper can't believe his ears. On the way, he thinks back to the adrenaline he had felt during his fights and the way he has now become addicted to feeling the high of wanting to fight. When he does reach the guy, he starts riling him up by dragging out Mangi's name and groping him. The video on beating up a Syrian wrestler is playing in his mind. Snapper fearfully films the unfolding of what is anticipated to be a disaster. Tae-hun is also watching the live stream. Earlier, before the fight, Hobin had gone to meet the Taekwondo fighter, asking him to teach him the fanciest move of Taekwondo, aka the back kick. Tae-hun gives him a back kick, sending him backwards. Hobin survives thanks to the backpack he's wearing on his front. He realizes that Tae-hun really went easy on him during the fight, because this kick is way more powerful than that day's. The Taekwondo fighter asks the reason for wanting to learn a back kick. Hobin enthusiastically tells him that Taekwondo is the strongest beating he has received so far. Tae-hun seems surprised by the answer. In present time, Snapper records the chaos that's about to unleash. He hopes Hobin has a trick up his sleeves like the previous fights. Hobin goes in with a clean calf kick, thinking it will surely do some damage, but Mangi doesn't feel a thing. The small guy keeps going at it again and again, but soon regrets feeling all that pumped up energy for it to turn out this way. Mangi watches him calmly. Hobin starts running backwards, bad-mouthing himself for thinking this was going to be fun. Snapper, though, tells the viewers that Hobin definitely has a plan, because he chose to run backwards, which means he can keep an eye on his opponent. Mangi, however, surprises everyone by running after him faster. It's revealed that Syrian wrestlers even train their legs. He sends a punch to the wrestler's face. Mangi grabs both of Hobin's arms in one hand. He breaks free from the grip and tries to do a baseball choke, but the guy's neck is so thick that he can't even wrap his arms around it. Mangi warns him not to touch his head. All the moves, done or tried, have had no effect on the giant. Hobin seems to come to the conclusion that nothing can beat grapplers. He wonders if the head is his weak spot and gives it a punch. Obviously a wrong move, because the next thing he knows, the guy picks him upside down and smacks him onto asphalt with his front splux move. Snapper starts crying, saying that this is why he tried to stop Hobin from this fight. But then Mangi is holding up a long spinal cord looking thing, and Hobin is acting like a zombie, jittering and stumbling. Apparently the thing is a spin protector, which thankfully saved Hobin from the worst damage possible. Despite Snapper begging him to stop, Hobin still stands his ground, stating that strikers like himself are not weaker than grapplers. Tae-hun is watching the live stream and agrees with him. A flashback to their meetup begins. Hobin had come to him, determined to learn the infamous back kick. The training begins with Tae-hun ordering him to practice running backwards. Hobin follows, but suspects that the guy is fooling around with him. In present time, Hobin runs backwards and then turns around, sending a back kick to Mangi's solar plexus, just like Tae-hun has taught him. Well, it lands more on the crotch area, which affects the wrestler for a few seconds, but then he lifts Hobin up, as if he didn't just receive a back kick. Hobin isn't wearing a protector this time. Mangi goes for the front plexus. Things happen in slow motion. Hobin searches to grab something for support before he hits the ground. His hands land on hair, and as he grabs it, but then the whole thing comes off in his hand. Mangi lets go instantly. The poor guy was wearing a wig this whole time, which is why he didn't want Hobin touching his head. They end up sitting on the stairs. Hobin apologizes out of sympathy. Mungi is close to tears as he sullenly sits. He tells them that girls like guys who play sports, so he worked hard to reach up to the champion weight level of Cheonhajangas. But those of lower weights like Gyungang and Taebek were more popular because of their good looks. He wants to get a girlfriend before he loses all of his hair. On top of all this, following Bomi was a whole misunderstanding because he saw Mun Seong following her and thought that she was in trouble. Hobin clarifies that he had only scared her. The naive wrestler pulls out a book of pickup lines saying that it taught him to be powerful because apparently that's what girls like. Hobin and Snapper realize that he isn't a bad guy after all. With tears streaming down his face, Mungi asks Hobin if he'll ever get a girlfriend. Hobin assures him with his own tear-stricken face. The three of them sit there with tears pouring down their faces. Afterwards, Mangi dejectedly starts walking away, apologizing to them for all the trouble. Hobin yells for him to never give up because he has so much support pouring in. It turns out that they were still live streaming and the comments are all positive for Mangi. Hobin pumps him up, telling him that his YouTube journey has only just started. The live stream comes to an end, and Gaeul's editing skills get their video 3 million views. Their subscribers count has reached 220,000. Hobin happily visits his mum at the hospital, who is skeptical about the job he is getting his money from because the debt is almost paid off. He doesn't want to reveal to her that he gets beaten up for cash, but assures her that it's nothing shady. She tells him to visit the nurse because she was looking for him earlier. He worriedly goes to meet her, however, she has good news for them. Ji-yeon's surgery date has been decided. They were able to find a donor, and if the surgery goes well, she wouldn't have to be on dialysis, which means that she could go home. He is over the moon and assures her that he will get the 2 million needed for the surgery. Hobin excitedly tells Bomi about it over text and Snapper and Guile in person. They are of course happy about it. The story seems to have a great ending, but then the monetization button turns yellow and the anime comes to an end. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.